Hello, welcome to Red Reality. Today we are speaking to special guests coming to us over the internet to speak about the international press agency Pressenza. Recently we had a humanist world forum here in Iceland where representatives from the different humanist organizations from around the world came to speak about very, very important issues. You can watch a recording of the meeting that took place here last week in Reykjavik, here on our station, Solidarity Station on YouTube. We also did an interview with Antonio and Rafael, who are organizing a world march for peace and non-violence that's starting now soon for the third time. But today we have with us Pia Figueroa and Antonio Cravallo. Hello, Pia and Antonio.
Hello, Carl.
Hello, Carl.
Thank you so much for coming. So
thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
You're very welcome. So
thank
Pressenza,
thank you to you and to your program, to Red Reality also.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's been a very we've done some great shows together, the humanists and Red Reality here, where we've really gone to the core of issues, and I think this interview will be no less, because today we are focusing on journalism and Pressenza, the international press agency, which was one of the co-organizers of the Humanist Forum here in Reykjavik. And Pia, maybe if we just start there, can you tell people, because you are one of the founders of Pressenza, what is Pressenza?
First, thank again, Carl, for giving us this interest and this space. It's not usual that a program will refer to a news agency. Yeah, since we create the news, so it's the feed that the media get, but not go to the public. So thank you. Pressenza is in fact a press agency oriented towards peace, nonviolence, humanism, and human rights. It was founded in 2008 because the person you interviewed the other day, Rafael de la Rubia, was in that time organizing the first march, world march for peace and nonviolence. And he would go all around the world together with a team of people, asking the governments, the institutions, and also the academics and the people, the neighbors, to stop with violence and to disarm the nuclear disarmament and all kind of weapons disarmament. So he wanted not a press coverage in one place, but an agency that could take care of the news on all around the world. And we created this agency, Pressenza, and we started working on it with the World March as the first issue to let the media know about. After 15 years that have passed, we are almost in our 16th year of existence. We have become a huge agency. We work every day in 8 languages, and we are open up to 4 more languages. And we have built a net of around 400 partners. Of course, we could offer Solidarity Station also a partnership, and will be wonderful. But we don't work yet in Icelandic, yeah? Mm-hmm. It's not one of the languages we work with. We are focusing now in new languages to be open, which are the huge ones: Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and Hindi. Those 4 languages are not yet in our work, daily work, but we are hoping that during this year we will be able to create the teams of volunteers that will develop those languages, which are the 4 greatest huge languages which are spoken in this world now. Anyway, we are just a group of volunteers. We do not work as a job, but because of the passion we have for humanism and nonviolence. So this is a net of volunteers that works in this moment in 42 countries and in many cities of each one of those countries. because the local news are also for us as inspiring as the global news. Mm?
And this for a news agency that's focusing on humanism and non-violence. What are some of
Yes,
the
and
focus
that's why
points?
we covered the news of the meeting that was held in Reykjavik in Iceland the other week, which was the base for the World Forum, the World Humanist Forum, as well as as you mentioned, the third chapter of this World March of Peace and Nonviolence.
Mm-hmm. And around this started when the first march began, but
Yes,
and has grown
yes.
very much since then. But what are some of the focus points? Like when Pressenza is telling the news, what's different about how the Pressenza reports the news from maybe more established media outlets?
For instance, this morning I had an interview. I was telling Antonio now, before we started this program, I had an interview related to NATO, OTAN, yeah, because the NATO was created 75 years ago, 4th April, as today. So they were asking us which is our viewpoint, and of course was totally different than the rest of the media, because NATO has done nothing except expending a lot of money on weapons and on military gadgets, not only weapons, but also vehicles, a lot of instruments that military uses, and has bring us to a situation in which we are now very, very difficult from the viewpoint of peace, because in spite of all the efforts that diplomacy makes every day in order to reach some peace, it's impossible with the pressure of the military industry and the NATO pushing towards more confrontation. Yeah, that viewpoint is not normal, it's not usual. Almost all the media were celebrating today the fact that NATO was formed 75 years ago. I think on the contrary, and we in Pressenza think on the contrary, that without NATO, we would be much better. We could have the money to invest in the climate, in environment, in education, in health, in social benefits, in so many other things that we are really needing. You know?
Antonio, when the Cold War was ending, people spoke about the peace dividend, where we would have so much money to spend on social welfare and building our countries and nature and people, but that hasn't exactly been the case. Can you maybe contrast this Pressenza and its ideas of non-violence to the way that NATO has been pressing its viewpoints, pressing its propaganda, not really creating space for peace, but being pretty violent in its behavior. Do you agree?
I think it's a war machine. I think whatever the euphemisms that they want to use, it's a machine of war. It has been involved in all the wars around the European region that the Americans have started in the last 70 years. And when he's far away, it was in Asia, Vietnam, they also brought them together with them. Therefore, I view is a puppet organization depending on the war machine of the United States. And they have lots of partnerships. The big companies that manufacture weapons in the United States and, for example, the UK, my country. And therefore, I know it. They are shareholders. They have crossover shareholdings in all the companies that are part of the industrial war establishment and military complex.
Before I ask you some more about that, because I want to ask you some more about that, but first I want to ask you about the non-violence of Pressenza. What does it mean to have to tell the news in a non-violent way?
Well, it means to propose another viewpoint, a viewpoint that many times is not shared, is not in other media, is a new way of looking at life. Because if you put the human being in the center, you need to create a non-violent environment around. You need for living, for survival, for the future of our species, you need to create peace conditions. So you look at things in a different way. For instance, economy. We are in a tremendous crisis of the capitalist economy today, but people is not showing all the small trials that communities in many places of the world are doing in order to resolve and to survive further than the capitalistic way of living. For instance, the basic income, universal basic income, which is a way of organizing the public funds that could assure everyone a little money to pass all the months without caring. But on the other hand, citizens would contribute with their work, with their arts, with their sports, with their what they want to do better. So it's a trial that is being carried out in small cities, as well as many, many other examples. Indigenous peoples are doing so many things in this way that nobody knows because there is no interest at all. All is moved by the interest of money and of violence. So to show small samples of different possibilities that could become big if we just give them diffusion, give them support, and could be really the way in which it could be born a new future. It's important for us. That is a way of thinking on nonviolent journalism, to give light to what is hidden today.
Very, very interesting. And Antonio, being a volunteer organization, not being beholden to shareholders or some owners, it gives you some freedom to be able to cover what you think is important.
Exactly, because the only controls that we have is from the head editors in the local offices in the different desks per country. If they happen not to agree with an article that is been proposed to publish, then immediately we'll suggest to the author, and then it can be adjusted. But by now, people are very aware, which is the correct way from the viewpoint of non-violence journalism, to report news, to talk about the big conflicts, and to bring to the public attention what is a humanist way of thinking, fundamentally proposing and promoting non-violence. Non-violence is exactly the opposite of what is happening. But it's clear that when problems that have been intentionally carried on for a long period of time, it's not enough with the decision or with the expression of desire of small parts of the population, because the whole machine is running in the opposite direction and nobody will listen to you. It's very frustrating, but we think that it's very important to keep the ethical, the moral line of journalism, because in the end, in the longer term, will prevail.
Yeah, to have faith in the truth, in the truth-seeking process, and in the fundamental position of taking an ethical stance, taking a humanist stance. Every person in the world has the same rights and so on.
Because it's the future of humanity, we think. I mean, we cannot remain killing each other constantly about everything, and we will not be able to survive, especially if we are more people in a few years' time. We may be doubling the number of population. So.
Indeed. And Antonio, I had an interview here with a young man who went to Russia on a World Youth Festival in its modern form, and we spoke a lot about in Russia you have the Russian media telling the lines and the points that the Russian government would like to make. That happens, But in Europe that happens as well, maybe in a different way, like we were seeing with Palestine today, where many journalists cannot say what they would maybe like to say because they might lose their jobs. Is press freedom under threat in the West, Antonio?
I would like Pia to consult in that matter.
I think it is absolutely controlled, not in the same way as Russia does it, in another more subtle way. But I was talking with a German friend from Berlin that was saying that there are some sentences that you cannot use. For instance, you cannot use a sentence that the river goes to the sea because it will refer supposedly to some Israel position, which they cannot state. So I don't understand exactly why that phrase is forbidden. But in Germany, you have that kind of control. And in many other countries, in Greece, we Pressenza published a video, and we were canceled our interviewing video by YouTube. And they never said why they canceled, just eliminated it from YouTube. And we cannot use YouTube in Greece because we published once an interview that they didn't like. So it's very much controlled, and we know that. And also economically, because the media have their sponsors and their owners, and they decide which is the editorial line. Many of the journalists that publish in Pressenza come here with their notes, with their interviews, with their articles, because they have no space to publish anywhere else.
They've maybe been pushed out from other organizations.
Yes, because of the money that controls the editorial lines of the media. Yeah.
Can I ask, for curiosity's sake, what the interview in Greece was about?
Well, it was an interview to Varoufakis, Yanis Varoufakis. Yes. Very interesting interview. Yes.
We've done one interview with him, actually. People can check it out. But
and you were not closed.
No, it wasn't. But what were you speaking about there? Why was it closed, do you think?
Was before the elections, and he was a candidate. He's a very interesting figure. We keep on interviewing him, and we are very near his positions. Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about we have this mood today where we are in a new, it seems, Cold War, where Biden says it's the autocratic countries against the democratic countries. Is there some truth to this?
None whatsoever, in my view. I mean, say Pia.
I don't believe nothing that Biden said, but you go, Antonio.
Yeah, exactly. He's old in the last run of his period and in his senile, and he finds difficulty to find the words that he wants to express, or say something wrong almost every day. So I think that Biden, what he says is not true. But on the other hand, I know very well his trajectory in the previous 15 years, 20 years, let's say. I know for different reasons. Also, he had a lobbyist in Washington. He had some businesses with some members of my family. You know how the lobbyists there, they get paid a very important sums of money to do deals that will favor your corporation, your company, or your business. And that is something accepted. So it's one of the many things that the institution of lobbyism that puts in between brackets the concept of democracy. How can you have a democratic system? Is the people who are in positions of government, they are paid to defend positions that are particularly interest to business people all over the world.
Yeah. And
like that, he had a very strong connection, he and his family, with the group that you could say anti-Russian in Ukraine, and they went organizing the military the coup in Maidan with years of anticipation, and yeah, they spend billions of dollars in order to keep the Nazi forces and the nationalist forces and everything equipped and running and growing, etc. So if you tell me that the vice president of the United States can go and organize a coup d'etat with whatever reason, because Russia was not threatening Europe, and we were not in a situation of war. They have spent, 50 years in a Cold War, and then it's a repetition of an old script, just because they needed to create a conflict, and that conflict is profitable for the American economy. but also to keep Europe subordinating. That has been part of the script for a long, long time. And then, for example, they send waves of immigrants from Syria and Iraq and all the countries that they were destroying at the time, Afghanistan, into Europe. And Germany could not contain. They didn't know what to do. They had to pay billions to the Turkish government in order to open some refugee camps in Turkey. So it's one thing after another against Europe, because Europe are the most serious competitors that they have in the doors, let's say, because they open into the Atlantic. And every time they compete together in some industrial aspect, for example, the airline industry, they produce better planes, and then they fill with their own production the order books of all the main clients in the world. And then now we are seeing the results. Boeing trying to compete with Airbus, they are producing defective planes in order to reduce the price of construction. So it's again and again and again, wherever you see lies, irregularity, hypocrisy, and that there is no law but the law that they dictate.
Unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. And we've even had some research papers published in the United States stating pretty definitively, I think, that we cannot really call the United States a functioning democracy anymore. Some scholars argue that it should be called a plutocracy because the rich rule of the rich people, because it doesn't seem to matter what the majority of people want or think. What matters only is the interests and wants of the upper classes. But this line they are hammering on. They are saying we are the democratic West. We are virtuous and ethical. You must fight these evil Russians and these evil Chinese autocrats. They say, and like you say, this seems to be almost like a script from the last Cold War that they're trying to bring up again. So. Maybe today is a very important day and very important times to try to shed light on these myths and lies.
Exactly. That is what inspired us, because we are working together with Pressenza in the establishment of the forums, and you know about the forum, Carl, because we have had quite a few discussions about that already, and we had the one in Reykjavik last week. But through the forum, we try to contact, first of all, a different sector of the public opinion, the grassroots, people who are doing things, people who really have, from village projects to autonomous independent projects, from the political establishment. We think that if we manage to create that wide net of contact and expressions, and with the people we discuss the most current problems that we face in the world, lots of people not only will be able to contribute viewpoints that at the moment are not considered in the main media, but also they will become very aware of the things and the general feeling, and they will be able to communicate to their immediate environments this type of experience. And in that way, we can relate horizontally the base of societies that at the moment are totally depending on what these small oligarchies that everywhere in the Western world have taken control of the democratic, as they call it, state, and they run it, and there is a little mafia. If you put it in biological terms, it's a tumor, a cancerous tumor that is slowly killing the rest of society. And democracy that every time is less representative, because everything is a matter of money. They buy the judges, they buy the businesses, they buy exceptions, they buy everything.
And in most cases, they write the legislation, in America at least.
Exactly.
And this is very interesting. We are, even though there are bleak things going on, capitalism is crushing many people around the world. We have wars going on and possibly more wars going ahead. We have climate change. But we have this unique opportunity, it would seem, where people from all around the world are able to connect. They can organize themselves in forums. They can share with each other. We can translate things at a moment's notice. So there's opportunity there.
Yes, and it's the first time that we are in just one civilization. We have globalization, which includes all of us, with different ways of thinking, but it's the moment in which any humanist from anywhere in the world could contribute with his or her actions and thoughts and feelings to create a new world, because we are in the threshold of a new way of existence. This one cannot go on. So it's the moment to build something new. And that's why this World Humanist Forum is so important. And Pressenza is committed to give diffusion to all of those actions and thoughts, which are the basis of the future.
And going into so many languages, being able to spread the message in so many corners of the globe, it really is exciting and fascinating.
Yes. Anyway, in Iceland, we could find people that is bilingual and that would like to collaborate in English or in French or because Icelandic is, as you said, a very nice but very small language. So it's difficult for us to put it up in Icelandic. Yes.
It's rare. I'm sure there are many people who are interested from listening to this who might be very interested in participating. And of course, Solidarity Station is in great solidarity with this mission, and the future is bright there. We will cooperate more.
I think that we have a partnership, Carl, and therefore you could be free to republish anything that is published by Pressenza or Pressenza's partners.
Mm-hmm. We could forward these messages. Antonio and Pia, thank you very much. And from Solidarity Station, I thank Pressenza for their fascinating work, and the humanists as well for their forums and the very interesting and organic grassroots movements that are going on all around the world and being able to connect. Thank you very much for coming to speak with us on Solidarity Station.
Thank you for the invitation, Carl. It was very interesting for me. Thank you. Bye, Pia. Thank you.
Thank you, Pia and Antonio. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.